Hello everyone, my name is Ashley Nordman, and today we will be presenting on R.G. and G.R. Harris Funeral Homes Incorporated versus Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. R.G. and G.R. Harris Funeral Homes Incorporated is a funeral home located in Michigan in which an employee named Amy Stevens worked at for many years. Amy Stevens lived in Michigan and worked for R.G. and G.R. Harris Funeral Homes Incorporated as a funeral director for over 6 years and had an excellent work record. However, during those 6 years, she presented herself as male. According to Stevens, she considered herself a transgender woman for most of her life, but presented herself as male to make it easier for others. However, she also stated that this caused her constant emotional stress. In 2013, Stevens came out to her family and friends and planned to undergo gender reassignment surgery. She had planned to take a vacation in which she would undergo said surgery and began dressing as female prior to transitioning to have the life experience. She wrote to her supervisor letting them know about the upcoming change and that after her vacation she will return dressed in women's clothes that are appropriate in accordance with the company's handbook. 2 weeks later, Stevens was notified by mail that she was terminated by the funeral home's owner, Thomas Rost, who is and was a devout Christian and ran his business as such. He claimed that under the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, he was able to run his business however he wanted. However, Stevens claimed that she was fired unfairly under the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Stevens and Rost attempted to end things civilly, with Rost offering Stevens a severance package, but Stevens refused it. Stevens then turned to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Stevens filed a complaint with the EEOC, saying that she had been wrongfully terminated due to being transgender. The EEOC agreed and took the case against the funeral home and began the fight.
So, yeah, like Ashley was saying, the EEOC did decide to take the case with Stevens to the court, and they took it to the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Michigan. And it is here where the court does inevitably decide to grant summary judgment to the funeral home. And if you're wondering what summary judgment means, it occurs when a court order decides the fate of a case without there ever being a proper trial with jury or witnesses. So basically, a court can look at a case, and if they decide that there's not actual evidence on one side or another, then they'll just, instead of taking up everybody's time, the jury's time, they'll just grant summary judgment to one side of the case. And in this instance, they granted summary judgment to the funeral home owner. And if you're wondering why they granted summary judgment, they actually did it on two particular facts that they viewed as being important. And the first reasoning that they gave was that Title VII does not actually apply to those who are being fired based on being transgender or having any different gender identity. So they stated that Title VII, even though it does protect people from being fired unlawfully, it does not actually protect people who identify as being transgender or any other gender identity that they may identify with. The other reasoning for their ruling was that since the owner was actually a religious man who ran the funeral homes, under his rules, he was thereby protected by the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. And what the Religious Freedom Restoration Act is a law that prohibits the government from substantially burdening a person's exercise of religion unless it meets a high level of scrutiny. So basically saying that unless what you're doing is extremely wrong, you are protected under this Religious Freedom Restoration Act, that you cannot be sued or any other type of government problem be taken up against you just because of your rules of your religion. And after this ruling, the EEOC and Stevens didn't like how it ended, so they decided to take the case to the U.S. Court of Appeals of the Sixth Circuit in order to try and get it appealed. And the U.S. Court of Appeals of the Sixth Circuit actually did give them some different results. So they took it here looking for a different outcome because they didn't like the outcome of the first case. So they went into the case with the same objective in stating that Stevens had been unlawfully fired due to her identifying as transgender. And after looking at and hearing the case, the court appealed the case, stating that they found the firing of Stevens had been unlawful and that she was actually legally protected under the rules of Title VII. Furthermore, the court also stated that there was no evidence brought forth that may have suggested the owner of the funeral home's religious rights and religious beliefs were actually infringed upon by the ruling. While dealing with the case, the court's decision was actually influenced majorly by a previous case that had happened in 1989. And the 1989 case was titled Price Waterhouse v. Hopkins. And this case had stated that a person could not be fired on the grounds that they did not conform to what the normal behaviors are of men or women. So, stating that if a person identifies as a man or a woman or anything else that they choose to, they cannot be fired lawfully if they do not conform to the general stereotypes of how a man would act or how a woman would act. So that was the ruling of the U.S. Court of Appeals of the Sixth Circuit. And if you know, after this, it then has to be taken up to the U.S. Supreme Court. So when the case was appealed, they sent the case up to the U.S. Supreme Court to be reviewed and decided upon, and this would happen in the future.
Hi, my name is Jaden Wilkins, and I'll be covering Title VII. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 covers workforce discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. It includes, but is not limited to, discriminatory hiring, firing, pay, promotion, and job assignments. Title VII applies to employers with 15 or more people working under them. The law also prohibits retaliation against employees who speak up about discrimination in the workplace, which allows more people to be honest about what they are experiencing at work. Title VII established the EEOC to investigate claims of discrimination and enforce the law. Scrutiny in law refers to the level of review or examination applied to a law or policy to determine its constitutionality. There are 3 levels of scrutiny: the rational basis test, the intermediate test, and the strict scrutiny test. The rational basis test is the lowest level of scrutiny and is generally used in cases where no fundamental rights are at issue. A few fundamental rights include the right to vote, trial by jury, and protection from self-incrimination. The intermediate scrutiny test is the second highest tier of law examination and is only used when a state passes a statute which negatively affects certain protected classes, such as race, color, religion, or national origin. Essentially all the things covered under Title VII. Amy Stevens' case underwent strict scrutiny, meaning the legislature must have passed a law to further a compelling governmental interest, and must have narrowly tailored the law to achieve that interest. That quote coming from Cornell Law. For a court to apply strict scrutiny, the legislature must have passed a law that violates a fundamental human right. This level of scrutiny is most common when employees sue the government for discrimination. Strict scrutiny is not limited to equal protection matters. It is also applicable to content-based speech restrictions. However, the Supreme Court has not supported its use in evaluating gun regulations. As a result, there is uncertainty about which standard of review should be used when analyzing Second Amendment cases.
Hello everyone, my name is Shane Dulesky and I'll be talking about the court's decision. The court voted in favor of Amy Stevens on June 15, 2020 by Justice Gorsuch, as seen on the left-hand side, saying that she was fired for discriminatory reasons. Like previously stated, Title VII does not allow for discrimination in the workplace, resulting in a 6-3 vote in favor of Amy. However, Justice Alito and Justice Thomas filed dissenting reports. Their opinion was that Title VII does not protect transgender rights since it is not explicitly stated in Title VII. Justice Kavanaugh also filed a separate dissenting opinion, but it was not enough to overturn the case. Dissenting opinions are written by judges who are in the minority of a case. It is a way for judges to express their beliefs and provide an imposing argument so that a discussion may continue. While these opinions may not sway the other judges to change their votes, it still promotes healthy and thought-provoking conversations. Here I have a graphic of those in favor of EEOC or Amy Stevens. As you can see, it was a 6-3 vote like previously stated. The trial took approximately 8 months to finish, starting October 2019 and ending in June 2020. However, Amy Stevens passed away on May 12, 2020 due to kidney failure, so she was unable to see the last of the case. Before I talk about our opinion on the case, here are outside sources that we used for this presentation. We as a group agree with the court's decision. Amy Stevens was fired simply for her transition. Her effort and production while at work did not diminish after her transition, so her being fired was simply due to her identifying as a woman. Something positive to take away is that Amy's case continued after her death. That is not uncommon that a substitute party continues the case. However, the lasting effects of this case means that similar cases would hopefully vote for the victim. Laws are a product of their time. Title VII was created in 1964 and specifically states it protects employees and job applicants from employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. Transgenderism is not mentioned while creating this law, but it does not mean it shouldn't be included. This is what majority of the court believed, as well as our team. These types of cases bring up questions about laws and if they should be changed as time moves along, followed as strictly as possible, or even eradicated. As America progresses further in time, the social norm will continue to shift, causing more collisions with older laws.
In conclusion, we agree with the way this case was handled. Stevens was able to reach out to the EEOC for help with her case, and they helped to get her justice even after she passed away. Stevens was unfairly terminated due to her gender identity. Even though the funeral home owner tried to argue that it was his right to run his business how he wanted based on his religion, the EEOC and the Supreme Court worked to get justice for Stevens, as Ross broke Title VII for discrimination. Stevens' case underwent strict scrutiny as she was an employee suing for discrimination. While her case took a while, she did end up winning. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled in her favor, saying that Title VII does protect transgender people from employment discrimination. Thank you.